The actual first design here we're going to make, move that out of the way, there's some earrings, and I like to call these the 3 swirl earrings. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that. We're going to cut off 15 inches of 20 gauge wire. That's what we're going to need. We're also going to need our cutters, and we're going to need our flat nose pliers, or long nose. You can also call them flat nose because they're flat. And then we're going to need our round nose pliers as well. And then 15 inches of 20 gauge wire. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cut off 15 inches of the 20 gauge wire. Sorry if my camera's jumping a little bit there. It's trying to focus and there's nothing there for it to focus on. So we're going to take the end of the wire, grab the round nose pliers, and grab the very tip here. And we're going to go ahead and start to fold, go around, like we're creating a small circle here. Creating a really small circle here, like that. Okay. And then after we create that small circle, we're going to start bringing everything else around it. I'm sorry, we don't want to use 20 gauge. We want to use, yeah, we're using 20 gauge, sorry. Okay, so we're going to grab here, everything around it. And we want to keep going in a circular motion to create pretty much a swirl. I want the swirls to circle around this here. And each time we circle around, we're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So you want to grab your flat nose pliers to hold this circle in place so that you can go ahead and start wrapping everything else around. Hold this in place. If you're using 20 gauge wire or 18 gauge wire, you pretty much can do it with your hand. I'm only using the tool to hold this in place. And how many times do we want to go around? Maybe 4 or 5 times. Let's go with 5 times. 5 times will give you a good solid decorative piece. Good solid decorative piece. Okay, I want to keep going because the circle I'm trying to create, I want it to be at least an inch wide and an inch long. Now in order to do that, keep in mind you have to make sure these circles are getting wider and wider. And sometimes the wire just can be all around the place and beat you up. A little bit here. Gonna keep going. You don't want the circles to be too wide. You don't want to have too many spaces between there. So we're going to keep going and going, and let's go ahead and count to see how many we have. So start from the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rings. I think that's going to be good enough for now. We have 5 there. Now, once you stop there, we're going to create our next circle of rings here. So, the same way we started the circle down here, we're going to start it here. And we're going to start another circle. Okay? Now, the way to do that is grab your round nose pliers. I'm going to take it up not too far because we don't want too many spaces. As right here, we don't have these circles are almost laying on top of each other, these swirls. So we want to try to create the same thing. So we want to give it about 1/2 inch to start another one. Okay, so that when we create the circles, it will lay on top of it. You want to grab there. We're going to bring the wire this way to create an L-shaped bend. Like this. Don't want to get it too far. An L-shaped bend. Like that. Now there are several ways you can do this, but what we're going to do is we're going to bend it back so that we can start our wrapping. So we're going to bend it back around, and then we're going to go right into starting our circles. Okay, so that gives us a good loop in the middle. Feel free to stop and rewind the video if you need to. So I want to get my loop a little tighter. I don't like for it to be too big. Now feel free to adjust the wire as you go along. Okay, so I don't want my circle here to be, my nucleus to be too big. All right, so it's just right for us to go ahead and start making the other circles around. And however you need to hold it that will allow you to wrap the circles, feel free to do that. Mine is kind of going all over the place here. There we go. Because I'm starting with the nucleus or the inside of the circle, I want it to be really small and tight and compact. As this wire is beating me up. Okay, and it looks like we've got a good round going here. Got a good round. And keep in mind, I want to somewhat match the other circle below it. Can't really get this to move because I want it to actually look like great artwork. So however you need to grip it, I'm having a bit of an issue here. However you need to grip it, this is a little too wide here, so I'm trying to bring it in closer. That's what I'm struggling with right now. Whatever you have to do to get it good and flat and to get a good swirl, then you do that. So now that I have somewhat a good swirl, I'm going to move my hand here so that I can keep going. And let's get a little wider with it. And here's another design that you might like. You can actually have the bigger circle at the bottom and then do your middle circle a little smaller and then have the top circle smaller. So that gives a nice little effect as well. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's not going to be perfect. All of the shapes are not going to turn out the way you want them to turn out. The biggest thing is to make two earrings match each other. Okay, so that's the biggest thing. Okay. I probably can do one more swirl and then maybe create a smaller one above it. Yeah, I think I want to do that. As a matter of fact, let's just go ahead and go into my next one, because you'll be able to gauge it and see that when you're going to be running out of room, running out of space there. Okay. So, and of course, to add more swirls, then you would have had to cut more wire. But let's go ahead and start another one. Grab your round nose pliers. Take it about 1/2 inch up. Remember, you don't want to go too far. We're going to bend it to create our L shape. And then we're going to go backwards with it so that we can bring the wire around to start our swirls. Oh my. I think I'm going to redo that one. Instead of going 1/2 inch up, I took probably a full inch, which won't create necessarily a bad design, but just want to kind of be a little different with it here. Okay. So what I did was I created my L shape straight up, and then I took it back over behind there and looped it back around and grabbed the wire. And I did that just to create my little circle. I want to flatten it a little bit so that we can start swirling around it there. Okay. Then you want to hold it in place so that you are allowed to work with it. Swirling it around. And sometimes you don't really have to use the pliers. You can do it with your hand, especially when you're working with 20 gauge wire. Or it can be done with 18 gauge wire as well. Okay. Let's go ahead and do a nice little swirl going there. Nice little swirl. Now see how there's a little more space here. Now you could unswirl it and get it a little tighter if you want, or you can kind of just let it go as is. Just kind of do this here. The great thing is you can always go back and reshape it the way you want to do it. Okay. And then you want the stem to end up at the very top, because we're going to create a little circle with it. And we want to create a little circle so that we can add our hoops, our jump rings. So grab your round nose pliers. We're going to take it at the tip and circle around. Circle around, creating a little circle. And however you need to move the wires around and shape them to do what you need for it to do. Now, let me help you with a little trick. Hammer it. If you have a hammer, and if you use a metal hammer, you want to make sure that you hammer on a metal surface. When you do it, it's going to make the wire a little tougher, so it's not easy to bend, and it's also going to add some character to it. The metal is going to put indentations in it that makes it look textured, and it gives a very cute little process with it. So what we're going to do is we are going to add our jump rings to it. And once you add your jump ring, oh, I'm throwing them everywhere, okay. Once you add your jump ring to it, then you can add your earring to it. Now you don't necessarily have to put when I say your earring, I mean your fish hook wire. Now you don't have to use a jump ring. I just like for my earrings to swivel. So that causes me to definitely add a jump ring to it. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and add we're going to go ahead and make the fish hook wire right quick that is going to attach to that. And you're going to grab your 20-inch again. And this time we're going to cut 2 inches. The other one. We're going to cut 2 inches of 20 gauge wire. And this is ideal for earring hooks. You don't want to go too much bigger because this has to go through your ear. So you want to be mindful of that. So we need 2 inches. Now I like to use an ink pen or a Sharpie or something very similar. Let's go ahead and use an ink pen. just to give it the round. You know what? Let's use. You can use an ink pen, but I'm gonna use this mandrel. This is for creating jump rings. But what we want to do is we just want to give it a round. I'm gonna make the wire go around it like that. Okay, so you can use an ink pen or something, anything round. Now, once we do that, we're going to make a little circle. Did I even? Yeah, I did. Little circle, which is going to be the part where we put the little hook. So it's supposed to look like this. If you can see that. And then the straight end, we're just going to bend it slightly so that it can go into the ear comfortably. And it's supposed to look like that. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and attach it. I'm going to open my jump ring. Like this. And we're going to attach it. We're going to close the jump ring, like so. And there you have it, folks. You have the earring. Call it the 3-swirl earring. 3-swirl earring. Okay, that's all for that one.